Now, Retro Chad and his amplifier, I found that big amplifier that he has to be so interesting. I had to go down in my basement and dig this out. I knew I had this down there. It's been in my basement for years. It is a Scott stereo amplifier. Let's see. I'm not sure what model it is. I'll have to glean that off of it somewhere. But this interesting piece of antique glass audio equipment has been living in my basement for quite a few years in amongst the spiders. And I braved those doggone spiders and went down there, found this on a shelf, and brought it upstairs, cleaned the spider webs off of it. Fortunately, a giant spider didn't jump out and embed its fangs into my jugular. So here it is. Very interesting looking piece of old equipment. I would say that in its day, this was pretty much getting up to an upper end of stereo gear of the vacuum tube days, just in looking at it. It's fairly interesting. I'm going to do a little bit more investigating on this piece of equipment. Now here I have it sitting on its side. It's a model 299C stereo amplifier, Scott 299C. I read this right here. I had to go and get my spectacles in order to read that. I really enjoyed the days when I was younger and didn't have to use cheaters to read things, but I do today. And you'll notice these nice fat transformers. I point that out because Chad in his video mentioned that the big transformer, the big audio output transformer, should give good bass. So I'm imagining that when this thing was in its heyday, it probably was quite a sound. They are somewhat bigger than the power transformer up here. Those tubes, I believe, are 7591s. I looked at one a while back. None of the tubes look like they've been fried. And I would say that the biggest concern with any vacuum tube amplifier, those pair of push-pull, stereo push-pull amplifiers, is that the audio transformers are not fried or shorted. I would think that the plate of each tube is connected to one end of the primary winding, and the center tap is B+. I haven't seen the schematic, but I'm assuming it's a typical push-pull circuit. 12AX7 audio input amplifiers. I don't know what those drivers are that drive each pair. I'll investigate that a little bit better. Now, it's apparently had a boo-boo. I can tell you that it didn't happen when I had it. I pretty much handled it fairly carefully, but this is all dented in right here where the fuse holder is. It looks like it must have fallen. How I got this amplifier was many years ago. A friend of mine, a late friend, he had various equipment, and when he passed away, this stuff amongst other stuff was not in his will, and it was considered to be junk. And because people that knew that I was a friend of his, they asked me if I wanted any of this junk, because there was a big dumpster outside, and as it is with a lot of us that don't have families, he didn't have much family, our lives end up coming out of the house and going into the dumpster. It's a very, very sad thing. But a lot of what I remembered about David was that a lot of his things that he had one time treasured were going into the dumpster because nobody wanted them. And this amplifier was destined for the dumpster. But being the junk collector that I am, I says, no, I'll take it along. And I did. And I haven't done anything with it since I acquired it. Here on the bottom we have the diagram of where everything is, the tube layouts and so forth and so on. I haven't pulled the bottom panel off to see what I've got under there, but I'm assuming the usual array of ceramic capacitors, probably a few electrolytics might be under there, some power resistor. There's electrolytic cans sticking up out of the chassis. Those will all have to be checked when I eventually go through this thing. My intent, of course, is to restore it if it's restorable. I hate to think of something as nifty as this just being thrown out and put in the junk. I have an electronics workbench that's going together out in the other end of my house, and that's where I sometime in the future hope to do a lot of antique electronic repair, I should say, on stuff that I've had sitting around the house for years. And again, I'm showing the top of the chassis. I have this thing sitting on its side, and of course the camera turned sideways, so hopefully the viewpoint will be as you see it. There it is. It's a Scott 299C stereo amplifier. I would think that this thing probably has quite a bit of punch when it's connected to the right kind of speakers. This will be a fun piece to get going, and when I work on it there will be another video about this amplifier.